Hi, I'm Abdurrahman Jamil. In this video, I'm going to be discussing about the sort method. But before I begin, please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, you can consider subscribing, because actually I just started this channel, but I plan to release videos about web development in general. And that's why I think this should be my first or second video by the time I'm uploading it. So kindly subscribe if you haven't, and if you have any suggestion or anything you would like to let me know, you can just comment or reach out to me on Twitter at Abdurrahman Jamil. So to begin, I'll have to create a new project here. So actually I'm using my mobile device to create this tutorial, because that's where I code from. So it's the option that I have. So before I begin, I have to create a new project, just like we create projects in Visual Studio Code. I'm using this text editor known as SPCK editor. It's available for Android. So let me show you here. As you can see here, this is SPCK editor which I'm using. So if you code on your mobile device, you can also use it too. It's a very useful editor. Now let me continue. So the first thing I have to do is to create a new project by clicking on this plus here. Then I can say new project here. So let's select HTML. Now for the name, I'll say using the JavaScript array sort method. So this is going to be the name of the project. So if you are using a PC, you can just go on to create a project the way you normally will if you're watching another tutorial. But because I'm using my mobile device and I'm using this text editor, so I'm creating a new project this way. If you also code on mobile, you can download the SPCK editor app from Play Store. So it's free, and they also have a pro version which you can purchase if you like. So these are the files that have been created for me: this index.html, main.js, and style.css. So for this tutorial, we are not going to be using any CSS files at all. So I think it's better to just clear this out. So let me get rid of this. Yes, sorry. Yeah. So I'll just clear that out. Then I'll just paste this out. Yeah. So here we're not working with HTML that much. So let me just leave this there. Nothing to see here for now. And inside of this main.js, I'll just leave it as main.js. So this is it for now. We're going to be working inside of this main.js file, which is a JavaScript file. I think it should be empty too. So let me check it out here. As you can see, main.js2 contains a line of code. So let me just clear it out. So back to our HTML file. Here we have the script tag that is linking to that main.js. But let me just preview this in the browser just to see what's currently going on. So I just open in browser. As I said before, if you are using a PC, you can just preview it in the browser the way you normally would. Because I believe if you are watching this tutorial, you already have a basic knowledge of HTML and JavaScript before you come over to watch this tutorial. So now, as you can see, nothing to see here. That's it, the main thing. But as you know, there is no console for mobile. So to actually enable the console in this browser, there is a script that I found online and I'm going to be using in this video. It is called Eruda. So you can search for it on Google and view the page on GitHub. So I really love it because it gives the functionality of the console that we usually use when we code on a PC. So back to the text editor. I'm going to link that coder to my text editor so I can actually use the console. So I'm back to the text editor now. So I want to link a ruler with I want to link a ruler with this and so I'll just say the SRC should be, I've linked it here, so okay, I'll show you after I link it. I'll show where this file is on this device, because I downloaded the source code. So I downloaded the source code. So let me just show you where I saved it on my device. So this is my file manager, and usually the text editor that I'm using usually saves file inside a folder inside this Android, this in here. So let me just look for it. This is particular to people who are coding on Android, so you don't have to worry if you are coding on your PC. I just want to show you that I downloaded that error, so you can actually code here. So i.spck. So the project that I created, this is where it stored it for me. The application stored it here using the JavaScript array sort method. So, but here we have the two files, eruda.dom at 2.0.0, then eruda.js. But this is the main file that I've linked there, this eruda.js, because it is the one that actually gives the functionality for the console and the rest. So you don't have to worry if you are using your PC. You can just view the console under DevTools the normal way. So this eruda.dom at 2.0.0, we don't need it for now because we are not viewing the DOM. So let me just go back to the text editor. So I don't need to link that, so I've linked this eruda.js. So let me just quickly do something here. So I added this script tag here. So I'm sorry this video is becoming very long. I'm sorry, I'm just creating a video for the first time, so it might be longer than you expect. I'm very sorry for that. So I linked this eruda.js up here. Then this little script here is to make it show the console by initializing it, then showing it, then showing the console. This is what I've just done here. You can read more on the Eruda website. I mean on the on GitHub. So you can just search for Eruda, and you see. So what we are going to be doing here is going to be inside this main.js here. So you don't have to worry, because we are actually talking about sorts. We are not dealing with HTML or anything like that. So back to the file here. Now when we talk about sorts, generally sort is used for arrays. That's just it. That is, you have an array and you want to sort it. So basically, let's just create a sample by creating an array. So let me just say let sample array. So let sample array equal this. So I'll just say fish, then cat, then goat, and then dog. Sorry, dog. So let me actually name this array animals. So the animals array. Now just to test it, let's log this into the console. So console.log animals. So So if I refresh this page now, then we should see the console. So this error is what is enabling this console. As you can see here, we have the console, and clicking on this button here will make the console disappear. As you can see, if I click on it again, it will appear, and I can just view any one I want here. So the error source script is very useful if you are coding on your mobile device. So as you can see here, fish, cat, goat, and then dog. That is what we have in the array. So we have actually logged it into the console. Very good. Now let's go to the next thing that we have to do, which is sorting it, which is the main thing that we have to discuss in this video. Now, to sort this animals array, we have to use the sort method, which means we are going to write animals dot sort like this. So animals dot sort. Let me actually make this thing bigger because I think it looks kind of small. Let me just make it 15. So animals dot sort. Then we can now log it into the console again. Say console dot log animals. So one thing to note here is that this sort method, it changes the animals array. Changes this animals array. That is, here we have this animals array, then we now set animals dot sort. So calling that sort method on it is going to change the animals array. So it does not, even if we say let new animals like this, even if we say this, it's still going to change this animals array. As you can see, let's just log it into the console by saying console. Let me log both into the console. So the console.log new animals. So by the time we view it in the console, you are going to find out that the two variables are going to be the same array, because this new animals, it contains this animals array that has been sorted, because we call the sort method on it. So let's get back to the browser and see what's happening. Let me refresh it. As you can see, we have cat, dog, fish, goat, cat, dog, fish, goat, which means that the array has been sorted. Now we now have cat, then dog, then fish, then goat, because C is first, then D, then F, then G. That is the basic implementation of the sort method. So another thing that I said is that assigning it to a new variable does not mean it will not change it. That is, assigning this animal.sort to a new variable does not mean the animals array will not be changed. So if we actually want the animals array to remain the same, we have to copy the values in it. So how do we copy the values in it? We can just say dot 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 like this, then we now say animals. So this dot 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 means that we are copying the items that are in this animals array into this new array that we are creating using this bracket here, as you can see. So this, by the time we call sort on this one, it is not going to affect this animals array that we have here, because it is not the animals array that we're actually sorting. We are copying the values in it, then sorting it. Then whatever we get from it is going to be stored in this new animals array. That's what we're actually doing now. And if you don't know what these three dots means, it is the spread operator that was introduced in year 6. I've written a blog post on that, so I'll link it in the description of this video. You can read about it there. So dot 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 animals dot sort, which means it's going to copy the animals array, then sort it, then store it in these new animals. So by the time we view these new animals and these animals now, they are going to be different. New animals is going to be the sorted one, and the animals is going to be this ordinary one here. So let's preview it in the browser now. As you can see here, we have cat, dog, fish, goat, which is the new animals array. Then fish, cat, goat, dog, which is the animals array that we have not sorted. The reason why they are not the same is because I copied it before sorting it. So that's it. Now let's get back to here. Now by default, the sort method sorts the array in ascending order. As you can see here, we have cat before dog, before fish, then goat, which shows that it is in ascending order, that is from the lowest to the highest. C is before D. Even when we are reading the what do you call it? I've forgotten. So we know that C is before D, before F, then before G, which means it is in ascending order. So there are two ways to make this go in descending order. So how do we do that? Let me go back to the text editor and see. Now by default, JavaScript has a method that you can call on any array known as the reverse method. That reverse is going to reverse elements in the array. That is, the first item in that array is going to be the last item. The second item will be the second to the last, and so on. I think you get the idea already. So let us actually reverse it by saying, actually let me clear this space here. So let me now say let reversed animals array should be, because I want these three variables to be totally different, so I'm going to copy the content of this new animals array again, because I don't want it to be the same thing. And as I said before, what I'm doing here is called array destructuring. Okay, I forgot to say it. It is called array destructuring is in year 6. I'm going to link a blog post that I wrote about it under the description of the video. In the description of the video, I mean, and you can also search about it on Google. So let me just say dots like this again, new animals, which means that we are copying the new animals array. Now you can now say dot reverse. Now calling this reverse means that it's going to reverse the content of this new animals array. So let me log it into the console now. Console.log reversed animals array. Sorry, I made a mistake there. Animals array. And let's see what that's going to give us in the browser. So let me reload it. As you see, we see goat, fish, dog, and cat. Goat, fish, dog, and cat. What does that mean? It means it has reversed the element in the sorted array. Normally, when we call the sort, it's going to give cat, dog, fish, then goat. But because we have reversed it, we are now getting goat, fish, dog, and cat. So let's continue. There are more to the JavaScript sort method. So the next thing we're going to be discussing is, actually let me create another array for this sample. So let me just say actually let me turn this to be a comment now. So I'll now say let colors be equal to red, blue, yellow, and green. So red, blue, yellow, and green. So these are the colors array that we have. There are two ways that we could create we could sort the array in descending order by first sorting it in ascending order using the sort method that we use here, then reversing it. And the second one is by using a compare function. Now what is the compare function? That compare function is the function that it's a function that it is optional. Actually, we can pass it to this sort method. So for example, we say this colors dot sort. Now when we call this colors dot sort, now as you can see, look at this little box here. It is telling us that we can have a compare function, which is this compare fn, which means that we can pass a function to this sort, which is going to determine how the values are compared, instead of using the default way of comparing values inside this sort method. So now there are certain things to note about the compare function. What are the things that we have to note? The first is that the compare function, it receives the parameters. That is, it's going to be called by this sort method. The thing is that when we call this sort method like this, and we pass a compare function to it as a parameter, this sort method is going to call on it to compare values in whatever array that we are sorting, to determine which one comes before which one. That's the analogy behind it. So for example, when we call sort on these colors, the compare function might pass this yellow and blue to it. So we should know that the compare function can only take two parameters, minimum and maximum. So it takes two parameters as red, blue, like that, maybe, or blue, yellow, depends on which array we are sorting. And the sort method, it's going to pass whatever items that we have in this array, in the array that we are sorting, to the compare function to compare the values. So let's just do something here. So let me say function, then I'll now say item 1, then item 2, like this. Now we have this colors of sorts, then we are now passing a function to it, which is item 1 and item 2. Now this item 1 can be anything inside this array, item 2 can be anything, because it is the sort method that is going to call on this function. Then it is going to put any of the item here as item 1 to compare values, just to know which one should come first after sorting the array. So let's continue. What we want to do is that we want to create a compare function that whenever the sort method calls it, it's going to let the sort method give a value of this same array to be sorted in descending order instead of the default ascending order. So let's say, for example, the item 1 here is blue and the item 2 here is red. We just assume that the compare function is going to pass those two to the colors, to the sort method. The sort method is going to pass those two to the compare function as parameters. Now what we want to do is we want to say if item 1, remember that we just assume that item 1 is blue here and item 2 is red. Note that the compare function can only take two parameters like this to compare two values at a time. So we now want to say if item 1 is greater than item 2, like this. Now before we return anything, I said that there are some things that we have to know about the compare function. Another thing that we have to know is that the compare function has to return a number, and the number can be a positive number, a negative number, or 0. Now when we return a positive number, what happens? So let's say, for example, the sort method passes blue as item 1, then red as item 2. If after passing those two to this function as parameters, we return 1 as the value from the function, the sort method is going to put blue before red. So if a positive number is returned, whatever item 2 is, it's going to be before item 1 in the resulting array. That is how it's meant to work. I'm talking about the compare function here. That's how the compare function is meant to work. Whenever we return a positive number, item 2 comes before item 1 in the resulting array, because it is telling that returning a positive number means we are telling the sort method that item 2 should be before item 1. That's the simple analogy behind it. So we now see if item 1 is greater than item 2. Now let's say, for example, item 1 is blue, item 2 is red. We now see if item 1 is greater than item 2, we want to return 1. Return 1 like this. So remember that I'm not using this code block stuff like this, because we are just returning. We are not carrying out many things inside of the if statement, so there is no use of this parenthesis here. So let me just undo it. So return 1 like that. Now what does this mean? Let me say it again. Let's say, for example, sort method has passed this blue here because we are sorting the colors array and we're saying colors of sorts. So remember that if item 1 is blue and item 2 is red, in this example now, we are now telling the sort method that red should be before blue because we are returning 1. 1 is a positive number. Remember that item 1 here is blue, item 2 is now red. Just as an example, returning 1 means that we want item 2 to be before item 1, which means if it is blue and red, then red will be before blue. Why? Because now blue is the first item, red is the second item. Now let us now check, is this going to actually return 1 or not? Item 1 is blue, which means it is starting with B. Item 2 is red, which means it is starting with R. So for this example now, item 1 is not greater than item 2. Why? Because item 1 here is starting with B and item 2 here is starting with R. So item 1 is not greater than item 2. So, but in our example, if we leave it this way, okay, let me just complete it first. So we now want to say if item 1 is less than item 2, return -1. Return -1. Now what does this mean? Just like the first line here, we are now saying the first one says if item 1 is greater than item 2. Now we have if item 1 is less than item 2. So remember that we are using blue as item 1 and red as item 2 here. Now this item 1 here will be blue and this item 2 here will be red based on these parameters here. Now remember that blue is less than red. Why? Because B is before R, so blue is automatically smaller than red, which means item 1 is going to be less than item 2 here, which means whenever the sort method calls on this function with blue as item 1 and red as item 2, the function is going to return -1. Returning -1 means that we don't want it is okay like that. That is, item 1 should be before item 2. That's the meaning of returning -1. Returning 1, which is a positive number, means item 2 should be before item 1, and returning -1 means that item 1 is supposed to be after item 2, not before item 2, which means that whenever the sort method is going to return a new array, this item 2 is going to be before item 1. That is if what we return from the function is a positive number. And if it is a negative number, it means that item 2 is supposed to be after item 1, which means that blue as item 1, remember again, and red as item 2. It means that red is supposed to be after blue, because here we are returning -1. Mind you, that is if item 1 is blue and item 2 is red. The sort method can pass any parameter to the compare function. Any of these, it can be yellow and blue, it can be green, so we don't care about that. What we just want to know is that whenever a positive number is returned from the compare function, it means that whatever the second item is supposed to be before this first item here. And I gave an example of blue being the first item, red being the second item. Now, returning a positive number, I just want to recap. Returning a positive number means we want the item 2 to be before item 1. In our example, because I said blue should be item 1 and red should be item 2, which means red should be before blue, assuming we return a positive number when it compares red and blue. But here we are saying if item 1 is greater than item 2, you should return 1. And now our own, let me just put it here as a comment so it will be easier to understand. I say, for example, item 1 is blue and item 2 is red. So whenever the sort method calls this function with item 1 blue and item 2 red, then the function is going to return -1. Why? Because item 1 is blue and blue is less than red, so it's going to return -1. So I hope you understand that. The last thing that we have to know is that, okay, what if item 1 is not greater than item 2 and item 1 is not less than item 2? What if they are equal? Then we should just return 0, which means that the sort method should just leave them like that. If item 1 is currently before item 2, leave it like that, and if item 2 is currently before item 1, leave it like that. So that is what returning 0 means. If the two are equal, then just leave them the way they are. So item 1 is, let me just explain this for example again. If item 1 is greater than item 2, we are returning 1, which means that if the item here is greater than item 2, let's say for example now, item 1 here is yellow and item 2 here is blue. We are now saying that if yellow is greater than blue, return 1. And you know yellow is greater than blue because y is greater than b, so it will return 1. And whenever we return 1 here, it means it is going to put yellow in front of blue, interchange them. That is what that returning a positive number means. Interchange them. This one should not be before this one. Item 1 should not be before item 2. So let us see what the result is going to be here by logging into the console.log the colors array. Now let's view the colors array in the console. Now let me reload it. As you see, blue, green, red, yellow, which means that we are still doing the same thing but with the compare function. So we can easily convert this function here to give the value in descending order. Remember that whenever the first parameter is greater than the second parameter, we are telling the sort method to interchange them, which means it is still going to be giving us the value in ascending order. So the simple way to to convert it to the descending order is by changing 1 to -1 and -1 to 1. Without using the reverse method, this colors array is going to be sorted in descending order. Now let's see, and let me reload. As you can see, yellow, red, green and blue, which means that we have used the compare function to change it from ascending order to descending order. To change it from ascending order to descending order, and I think that's fine because we are not using the reverse method anymore. So you can choose anyone you like. There is more to the sort method. We're still going to be discussing them. I think I'll end the video here because it's becoming too long. There is more we're going to discuss. So I think I'm going to create a part 2 for this topic using the JavaScript sort method. So I'll end the video here for now. Thank you. If you haven't subscribed, you can please kindly subscribe to my channel, and if you have any advice or suggestion, or you just want to comment, just say something in the comment section. Let's see what's happening. So if you have anything you'd like me to know, you can just say it in the comment section below. Thank you.